Hey, supply chainers, wherever you are in the world, this is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, and also the Blended Pledge, and super excited to be here with you today. Now, we just heard from one of our sponsors, and now it's time to hear from Emerge. Emerge is proud to partner with Thoughts and Coffee to elevate our combined focus on empowering and growing meaningful relationships in the freight industry. The first and only freight-specific RFP platform, Emerge is reinventing freight procurement by offering solutions that enhance the spot and contract procurement process, enabling shippers to make the most strategic decisions possible, saving invaluable time and enhancing productivity. Learn more at emergemarket.com/thoughts and coffee. All right. Well, I'm excited to talk to you about what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain today. And then we've got a super exciting guest here from all the way from Europe. And he's going to be talking to us all about the procurement world and what really happened last week in Amsterdam at DPW. And I cannot wait to hear more about that. But first, let's talk about what's happening here at Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we've got a brand new episode. It's episode 294. And it's with Locus Robotics. Kate joined me in person at Home Delivery World. And this one has been years in the making. If you guys haven't been following Locus Robotics, you really should be. And this episode gives you a deep dive into what robotics actually means for supply chain, for the warehousing community, and what they've been doing. And they actually just hit a huge milestone with 1 billion robotic picks, which is huge. And so I've been wanting to have them on the show for a long time. So super excited to have them on the show. So go and check it out wherever you subscribe to the show. Plus, you can go check it out on letstalksupplychain.com as well. What else do we have? Well, we have a brand new episode of Blended. We're going to put the link in the comments because I want you guys to go and check this out. It's episode 24. I can't even believe that we have done 24 episodes of Blended. This one is about understanding gaslighting. And let me tell you, these two ladies, Jen and Jolene, really brought it and really were courageous in sharing their stories around gaslighting. We've probably all experienced it. And I think it's a really, really important topic to dive into when we're looking in our workplaces and talking about diversity and inclusion. So definitely go and check that out. What else is happening? Oh, we've got FarEye coming out with another episode of Special Delivery. Now, this is happening on Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and the title is The Return of Returns. If anybody is in e-commerce right now, you know that returns is one of the toughest, most costly part of your business. So you definitely want to go and check this out. AJ is going to put the link in the comments right now so you can go and register. Super excited about that one. And then again, if you have missed any of our live shows, go to Let's Talk Supply Chain on YouTube and catch up. We've got everything in playlists, so really easy to find, really easy to watch. So definitely go there and check that out. Well, without further ado, we're going to bring our guest up for today. So hello, Matthias. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
It's really great to see you. And you're coming to us from Amsterdam.
Yes, born in Germany, but I live in Amsterdam now. That's right. Moved here in January earlier this year.
Okay.
So it's my 10th month. I actually moved here because of the conference that I'm hosting here once a year.
Nice. It's one of my favorite places. So to be able to live there, kudos to you. Great. So why don't you give everybody a bit of an introduction, an idea of who you are and what you do. And let's learn a little bit more about you.
Great. Yeah, Matthias Gutzmann. I'm the founder of DPW. I founded DPW in 2019, really with the idea of bringing startup innovation into the procurement industry. I've never been a procurement practitioner myself. I used to work for an organization called Procurement Leaders, heading up the North American business, and also then worked for a startup, and really realized there was no startup community in procurement. There were a lot of startup festivals in the world already across the globe in different industries, but procurement lagging behind. Typically, there was nothing there. So I really set out to found DPW again with the mission to connect large organizations with startups, but also really to facilitate procurement's, I guess, bigger purpose of driving, value beyond savings. And when you think about communities and events in procurement, I always felt they were too siloed, right?
Right.
Typically, the procurement practitioner and the incumbent, but there was obviously, as the world is changing, we need to, I guess, break this silo in procurement and, I guess, enrich the old events and ecosystems and communities that we have traditionally with, all these new players that are coming through, but also connect procurement with all internal functions on one side and then the external supplier ecosystem. So building that community really is the purpose of DPW. And more than a conference today, we help companies find new technologies and scale them as well. So we founded a program called Scout Lab.
Wow.
And there are some other exciting initiatives. So another one would be that we just launched the Next 100, which is a new community focusing on young talent in procurement under the age
Awesome.
of 30, where we believe again that, other communities focusing typically on the CPO, because probably that's where the money is. But we believe the future of procurement, who better can predict that than the young talents, right? So we need to focus and nurture them much better. And they are a key pillar and key community of what we are doing here at DPW.
Yeah, and so the world is changing, but the world of procurement is really changing. And we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into that conversation today, talking about the future, talking about procurement teams, talking about, skills that people are really looking for and what the future of procurement teams actually look like. So many exciting things that are happening. Now, can you give us a bit of an overview of what DPW was like for those of us that, didn't attend, couldn't be there? What was DPW like? What was the atmosphere? Are people really excited about procurement? What were some of the topics that you were talking about? So we can get excited for 2023 and really take a look at maybe coming for next year.
Yeah, of course. Let me tell you, you missed out, right? If you didn't attend the event. But the focus of the conference is technology. So we are the digital procurement guys, if you like, in the event space. So we have a lot of CPOs and the teams coming on one side, but also the startups are coming, the investors are there, and the business, right, and the young talent. So great. It was a 2-day conference, just finished last week. I'm exhausted because I've been working towards that event now for a while.
Yeah.
Our first event was in 2019 as an in-person event. 2020, nothing. And last year we went fully virtual, which was a great success as well. And so now back in person, was just, the sheer energy and excitement in the room. You could really feel it. And I think after 3 years of doing virtual things, people were craving to come back to face-to-face meetings. And, I think that was my one key takeaway. Networking is king, right? Content is maybe queen, although the content was very strong as well there. So I had amazing speakers we had 2 big stages over there and a couple of breakout rooms, but we had amazing content. And what again makes the conference unique is that we bring the outside in speakers to the stages. So it's not only the procurement people speaking on our center stage. We had the chief sustainability officer of Henkel.
Nice.
We had Prince Constantine of the Netherlands and the former prime minister of Estonia talking about how their countries actually drive a startup culture and what procurement can learn from it. We had, quantum technology speakers there. We had, the business really on the stage as well, but obviously also the procurement community and the provider community. The other thing I always try to bring into procurement when it comes to the conference space is, let's have fun as well, right? Let's take
There
this.
was a DJ. I saw a video of a DJ.
Oh yeah, here we go. So we had an opening party on the first day at the Supper Club with a VJ as well, a video jockey
Nice.
that we hired from Tomorrowland, one of the biggest techno festivals. And we had an amazing DJ. So there was a lot of party at the conference, the day before and during the day. We had a DJ as well at the venue. So, we were heavily focused on networking and also breaking down the typical procurement conference agenda, which is typically, in a plenary session in the morning, then you go for lunch, and you're tired, and then you go into the dark breakout rooms where the sponsors are presenting. So we broke this down. There was a longer lunch period. There were multiple stages. So I'm trying to really bring movement into the conference and also elevate the role of the providers, because we are all around the provider and the startup perspective at the conference. So
absolutely,
honestly, the feedback that it's still pouring in. I don't know if you followed us on LinkedIn. There has been a lot of excitement around the conference. I think we nailed it.
Nice. Well, I definitely want to be there next year if you'll have me. This year I couldn't go because I was having surgery, but definitely was thinking about you guys and followed everything along. It's great to hear that you brought some outside influences in as well. I've been to Estonia, which is kind of random, but it's a great place and has a great feel. And to talk about how they're supporting startup culture and what that looks like in different perspectives really brings innovation into our industry. So I like to hear that. Now we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. We're gonna talk a little bit more about procurement because we've got some really good articles. But first, I do want to get to our poll of the week. So if anybody in the audience does have any questions for us and wants to talk about procurement, make sure you put the comments in the comment section. I do want to give a shout out to Abdul and Omkar for joining us over on my personal LinkedIn as well. So the poll that we asked you last week, what are your thoughts on the rail strike that was averted last week? So 52% of you said it's just a Band-Aid. 26% of you said it's going to happen again. 18% of you said saved by the bell, and 3% said comment below. I think there's a lot of questions, and I know, Matthias, you're over in Europe, and this was happening here in North America last week. But this was going to be a $2 billion a day problem. If we compare that to the Suez Canal being a $400 million a day problem, this really was something that needed to be averted. Is it just a Band-Aid? Potentially. Is it going to happen again? Not sure when, but absolutely. These conversations are constantly being had, but it's definitely something that needed to be squashed. I think one of the biggest questions around this is what was promised for us to be able to avert this rail strike. So I don't know. Did you guys hear about this over in Europe? You were head down in DPW, so probably not.
No, so I did not hear about it personally. Yes, I was, obviously focused on the conference, but no, it sounds like a big, logistic supply chain disruption, no, that happened there over there, and it's more around, it's about the entire industry, right? That's been affected by that.
Yeah, procurement, all down the supply chain would have been affected. And even consumers and passenger trains would have been affected as well, which I don't think a lot of people realized the impact of what this would have done. And so that's why we wanted to talk about it and just sort of see where everybody's temperature was on it being averted. But now we're going to get into our first article. So this article comes directly from your website. The reason why I picked this one is because there's so much amazing information when you guys did this interview with Karim from Deutsche Telekom. And so it talks about the future of procurement and what we need to focus on. Now, some of the things that Karim talked about was the challenges being on time, the challenges being quality, And the challenge is being soaring of cost of energy. Now, that's something that we haven't heard too much about here in North America, but we are hearing things in Europe about how Germany is going to be doing potentially rolling blackouts and all sorts of things because of the soaring costs of energy, but not really relating it back to procurement, not really relating it back to supply chain. And so I thought that was a really, really interesting take on some of the challenges that we need to be focusing on in the future. What did you think about this particular conversation that you guys had with Karim?
Yeah, I did not interview Karim myself. It was our editor, Richard. Karim also attended the conference. And so what we did, we reached out to some of those attendees, and actually he spoke at the conference as well. He was, I believe, running a workshop on autonomous negotiations in procurement. But I guess, I think the focus for procurement right now is obviously those new fancy and important initiatives like sustainability and driving more diversity. But I think now we are very much in an environment where we have to be very operationally focused, right? To make sure the products and services are arriving on time at the right quality.
Yeah.
And managing costs because of inflation is a major challenge. So I think when you, in the context of digital and technology, I believe that now is the time to look also at your volatility toolbox. What are the technologies that can help us with cost modeling, cost prediction, and all those challenges. So, but I guess Karin talked around those challenges and to keep the business running, right? And procurement's role in helping the business to survive in a way.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting one, and I believe the challenge then is also to hopefully in the short term or the midterm to get out of that operational only focus and also start building the future of procurement, right? So it's that balance, I believe, managing the now and at the same time think about what's next for my function and how can I get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and so another really important point that I wanted to highlight is when you asked him about emerging tech, he said it was more about knowing the production site, knowing your sub-suppliers, knowing the shipping routes, and once you know all of that, then you can play with the data. So it's not about necessarily collecting the data ahead of time. It's about getting to know all of those pieces of the puzzle and then understanding the data that you need to make it all function. And so I thought that was a really great point to bring up. And then the other thing is that something will always happen, is what he said. I think he said something like we've been through 12 disruptions or something like that. Not all huge, but they've been disruptions that have changed the way we look at things. And one of the things that he also mentioned was raw materials. And when are they going to run out? Because they will run out. And so what does that look like for your organization? What does that look like, and how long do you have to start reinventing your product, reinventing what raw materials you're using to actually put into your product? And so definitely an article to go and check out on their website, because I thought this was a really, really, really good conversation and something to help the procurement professionals really think about what they're doing today, but also focusing on what that route to the future could look like.
Yeah. And also then, how you think about bringing digital into the organization, right? I like, obviously, you have to look at data holistically, not in silos as well, right? So you need to bring the end-to-end perspective into that and then see how all the tools that you bring in talk to each other and you can make sense out of that. And then also how you bring digital technologies into your organization. I think it's a different way of working almost, right? I mean, it's digital transformation and working with startups, and it's a never-ending story in the end. And I think you have to always stay on top of what's out there and how you can refresh your tech stack with the latest technologies. It's not an A to B linear transformation, right? It's not an SAP implementation when you think about digital, and you need to create a test and learn mentality.
Yeah.
And it's okay to fail sometimes as well, right? It's
Mhm.
that risk mentality that you also need to embrace. I
Yeah.
guess it's not okay to fail on an SAP implementation that costs millions, right? But I think in digital, because the tools are lower cost as well, maybe there's that's okay sometimes to maybe fail on a pilot here and there.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with somebody who had managed one of the biggest supply chains in the world yesterday. And he said that he speaks to supply chain leaders, procurement leaders all the time. And their biggest fear is making that mistake. Right? Because it could cost the organization a lot of money. And so it's really interesting that you talk about that and talk about how we manage that risk and how we manage the risk tolerance of the leaders within our organizations as well.
Yeah.
But in talking about the workforce, now this is our next article. And I really liked this one because it talks about the skills. What does the procurement team of the future look like? And what are the skills that you need? So I get asked all the time. I am studying supply chain, I'm studying procurement, or I'm in a procurement and supply chain role. Where do I need to upskill? What do I need to look at? So this helps me answer this question, which I'm very excited about because, again, I get this question all the time. And so this article talks about how procurement has new responsibilities. Some of
Mhm.
those new responsibilities include identifying supplier risk and innovation opportunities, monitoring, managing performance, and a proactive approach to internal stakeholders. Now,
Mhm.
this, I mean, typically from this article and what it's saying is not typical of a procurement role and not necessarily something they've had to do in the past, but more and more procurement is starting to take responsibility for this. So is this something that you spoke about at DPW last week? What was sort of the connotations that were talked about last week around the procurement teams of the future?
Yeah, yeah, we talked about it. I think when it comes to the topic of digital, it's obviously clearly not about technology, really. It's about people and
Mm.
driving change to bring this to life. But I think there's obviously the overarching notion that the world is changing and there are a lot of problems out there, right? Beyond, it's not just technology, it's socio-political change, geopolitical
Right.
change, climate change, changing consumer demands, you name it. I mean, we're all feeling it, right? But at the same time, I guess procurement is being asked by the business to help solve many of these challenges that I just mentioned. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there is obviously, and we all know that there's a yeah, I guess procurement typically traditionally, focusing on cost. There's now these new components that the function needs to deliver. Sustainability, diversity, bringing external innovation inside, and finding new suppliers. So I think all these new exciting opportunities are amazing opportunity. And I guess technology plays a key role in helping solve them as well. But ultimately, I think we need to match all these new tools with, I guess, enough leadership will, right, to get the job done. And that then means we need to bring the right people in. And I think collaboration obviously is a key one there, right? How can procurement better
Yep.
align with the business and help solve business needs, but then at the same time match make that with the internal external suppliers, but also with the future suppliers. So I guess there is a I guess I can see that as well. Procurement being more of a collaborator, a facilitator of collaboration and co-creation within the business and
Yeah.
outside. So you need to probably bring that type of soft skills into the function. Maybe that was not needed in the past.
Yeah.
What
Well,
else do
and that's why I brought this graph up. If you go to this article and take a look, these are the skills that are considered highly important to procurement roles. They've
Mhm.
got the percentages in current right now, and then they've got the percentages in future. So if you are looking to upskill some of these soft skills, this is what you're looking at if you want to have a career in procurement. And I like that you brought up the fact or the phrase of collaboration. I mean, I talk about it all the time. One of the
Yeah.
things that they said in this article is that with some of these specialized skills, we need to make sure that we're not putting them in silos and that we're still collaborating as a team within procurement. And that's really going to be key in the future because, yes, we are looking for specialized skills, but we want to make sure we're still collaborating as a team to make sure that we're continuing the success of our organization, our procurement teams.
Yeah. But then you also saw the other stuff, the other skills that are needed, obviously, is around digital literacy and technology and data. And we need to bring, obviously, technology plays a key role. We need to bring in those data translators, data scientists. But to be honest, I mean, it's all great. Those skills are needed. I believe that as well. And it's important. But to be honest, I always say, I mean, we have to be curious, right? As procurement professionals. And we need to, I guess also make our function sexier, more attractive for people to join them and come in. And I think once people are in there, they're excited about procurement. I mean, it's one of the greatest functions. I've never been a practitioner myself, I must say, but I've seen you touch so many functions internally and have those new exciting opportunities of driving sustainability. And procurement's role and business acumen is obviously important as well. But procurement's role is in the future will be beyond procurement as a function, right? It's much bigger than that. And we need to become a trend scout for the business almost, right? And help the business find new technologies. I think there's such an exciting function to be in. But again, as a leader, as young talent, I mean, digital is difficult. It's new. It's nothing we never really have done before, the way we're doing it now with new emerging technologies coming through. And I believe it's just being curious and passionate about technology, generally speaking, but also then bring those people who are maybe, not old school or the older people that are maybe see digital technology as a risk to bring them on board, right? And say, hey, we're not taking away your job. We're just, changing your job maybe and give you maybe a new type of role in procurement. But I think it's exciting. And I believe, again, if we want to think end to end in procurement and if we want procurement to help manage the business and the suppliers, we need to bring probably more projects management skills into the function, right? Rather than specialized skills. They are still needed as well. Don't get me wrong. But it's more, I guess, also the generalist that I see more coming through, right? And the business leader as opposed to the procurement leader.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Now I want to give a shout out to Sheik and Crystal and Boris and Davin over on my personal LinkedIn. Now we only have 1 minute, I think, maybe a minute and a half for our last article, but I do want to bring it to the forefront. So Ben & Jerry's is moving to a responsible dairy sourcing model. Now, why is this important? Because 85% of consumers are looking to buy from brands that are more sustainable. They talk about this triple bottom line, which you have probably heard before, but if you don't know what it is the economic and social and environmental bottom line rather than just the profit, which is what everybody was focusing on prior to this. And 270 million cows produce milk globally. And so what Ben & Jerry's are doing is they're working with local farmers to secure the welfare of the cows. And they're also incentivizing their farmers to improve the working conditions for the cows as well that are producing the milk for them to be able to produce their ice cream. Now, why is this important to procurement and supply chain? Well, sourcing is part of supply chain. It's a really important factor when we're looking at raw materials, when we're looking at finished product, because the consumers are really driving the demand of what they want to see from retail brands. I'm going to leave you with this because Ben & Jerry's has a tagline, a sustainable corporate concept of linked prosperity. Now, if that doesn't say collaboration, I don't know what is. Do you have any fast comments on this, Matthias, before we get to the end?
No, I just, I like it, right? And obviously, it's consumer demand driven. And I think Ben & Jerry's are a very purpose driven brand, by the way, as well. And there's also really procurement's role in helping the business become more sustainability and beyond just lip service, right? And really doing it. And the way we source is different probably today than in the past, because we're also now looking at the sustainability KPI, right? When we look at new suppliers. So I think, again, I mean, and sustainability starts with suppliers. And guess who manages those suppliers is procurement. So I guess my point here is obviously that procurement is really in the driver's seat of helping the business actually become and do sustainable sourcing. So I think it's so exciting. Yeah. And yeah.
So really quickly before we go, I do need to talk about upcoming events. I'm going to be in Chicago the middle of October for Women in Logistics with Redwood. We've got the Rooters event coming up November 15th and 16th in Texas. We've got Forge coming up in November, Women in Supply Chain Forum in Atlanta, and we've got Manifest in January. And of course, we've got all of our live shows happening throughout the month. Matthias, this was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
There was the fastest 30 minutes that I had in a long time. So that bye. Thanks for having me. And really, I mean, next year I want to see you on the stage of our conference in Amsterdam to do great interviews.
Let's do it. I mean, we've created some buzz today. And if you didn't make it this year to DPW, you definitely want to make it to DPW 2023. I'm excited. Matthias is excited, and I'm sure the content's going to be great. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Matthias.